welcome to our webinar for the project Measuring Real-World Outcomes for Augmentative and Alternative Communication Interventions for Children and Youth in School Activity Settings. So my name is Anne-Marie Renzoni, and I'm an occupational therapist in Communication Writing Aid Service, and I'm also an education coordinator at the Centralized Equipment Pool at Holland-Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital in Toronto. I'm a member of the research team for this project that includes Tracy Shepard, Danielle D'Alessandro, and Steve Ryan from Holland-Bloorview, along with Lisa Smith from the Toronto District School Board, Gail Ozos from York Catholic School Board, and Jim Donahue from John McGivney School Authority in Windsor, Ontario. So Tracy and Steve will also be speaking during the webinar and introduce themselves later. So the background for our project initially stemmed from the question, why is it that nearly 3 in 4 school-aged children in Canada who cannot speak, who have speech that's not understood, have unmet communication needs? We have empirical evidence that supports that AAC improves communicative competence in the everyday lives of children who experience communication challenges. Our concern is that neglecting these communication needs can lead to delays in academic achievement, participation barriers, and social isolation for children with complex communication needs, and these can impact on long-term health outcomes. In a U.S. survey of 275 speech-language pathologists working in AAC, they found that the lack of training, support, and poor contextual fit were thought to be key factors associated with early abandonment of AAC systems. Although the survey was published 10 years ago, we are really no further ahead in our understanding of factors that lead to better outcomes following the provision of AAC interventions. In part, the progress in knowledge generation in this area has been hindered by the lack of reliable and valid indicators for the effectiveness of AAC interventions. So this project aims to address this gap in knowledge through the development of an outcome measurement tool to enhance our understanding of the factors leading to successful use of AAC systems. So the project purpose was to develop and study the emerging validity of a new educator-report questionnaire intended to detect the functional impact of AAC for children and youth aged 3 to 18 years in school activity settings. So our project involved 3 phases for initial measurement development. Phase 1 was a systematic review. So through a systematic review of AAC literature, we identified candidate dimensions to be included in this new questionnaire. Phase 2 is a content validity, which involved a review process with young adults using AAC, teachers, special educators, and AAC clinicians to select the most important dimensions to be included in the measure. Phase 3 was face validity, so the items for the key dimensions were reviewed and confirmed with a select group of teachers and special educators. So through these 3 phases, we produced a preliminary education report questionnaire that met our study objective. So the next sections, we're going to review each of the development phases in a bit more detail, and I will start with the phase 1, the systematic review. The purpose of the systematic review was to identify educator-reported functional outcomes and contextual factors that could influence functioning for children and youth who are using AAC in the school setting. The articles were selected if the authors measured school-based functional outcomes associated with AAC intervention for students who were 25 years of age or younger. Qualitative and quantitative research designs and synthesis of original research, which included narrative and systematic reviews, were eligible for inclusion in the literature review. So we scanned contemporary peer-reviewed research articles published between January 2001 and December 2014. We started at 2001 because the theoretical foundation for the new measure was informed by the International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health, which is referred to as the ICF. And the reason for this is this was endorsed as an international standard in 2001. So there'll be more on the influence of the ICF will follow. So our search strategy, 2 team members independently screened more than 300 titles and abstracts following a multi-purpose keyword search. The databases were the Ovid Medline, PsycInfo, and ERIC, which is the U.S. Department of Education's Resource Information Center. So the results from the literature review. So the initial search yielded 317 non-duplicated research articles. 30 full-text articles were included for data extraction following the title and abstract review and screening process. So these were articles published since 2001. Through this process, we also confirmed that there was no educator report questionnaire existed to measure real-world outcomes in schools. And through this, we also identified 22 unique theoretical dimensions. So here is a slide of the theoretical domains. So the review provided a comprehensive inventory of functional and contextual dimensions that may be important to consider for evaluating the effectiveness of AAC interventions in the school activity environment. So some of the dimensions include aspects of communicative performance, including effectiveness, spontaneity, versatility, social interaction, so looking at quality of peer interaction, peer behaviors, social validity, acceptance and perceived benefit of AAC, and relevant elements of the school environment, so looking at this classroom setting, school relationships, and policy. So we developed definitions for each dimension based on the content covered in the source articles and in preparation for the next phase of the study. So now I would like to welcome Tracy, who will discuss phase 2, which provides further support for the content validity of our new educator report measure.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. So I'm Tracy Shepherd. I work at the Augmentative Communications Service at Thames Valley Children's Centre in London, Ontario, as well as with Anne-Marie through the Centralized Equipment Pool as a Clinical Education Coordinator. Looking at the content study, what we did was look for experts in the field to give us some input on the domains that Anne-Marie just reviewed. So we had 5 speech-language pathologists, 5 OTs, 5 educational assistants, and 2 teachers. That was our first group of experts. All of them had at least 5 years or more practicing with students that used AAC, so had quite a bit of experience with students using AAC. And you can see the range, the age range of the students that they worked with was quite vast, so we had a good range between 3 and 18-year-olds that they had been working with. The next group of experts that we enlisted in our study were the real experts, the people that use AAC themselves. So we had 5 young adults who used AAC as well in the content validity stage of the study. They had all been using AAC at school for at least 1 year. That was our minimum criteria. The mean age of the people that used AAC was 20 years, and you can see the range was 18 to 22 years. We had 3 female and 2 male. Their diagnoses were 4 of them had cerebral palsy and 1 had acquired brain injury. So the mean experience of these individuals that used AAC was 8.5 years, and that the range was between 1 year and 18 years. Many of them had much experience using AAC. So those were our group of experts. What we did next was we developed an online survey, and we asked these experts to rate the relevance of each of the 22 topics that we had identified in phase 1. So you can see a sample of the online survey here. This topic was communication effectiveness. So what we did was we gave them the topic and a definition, in this case the degree to which the student is successful in all forms of written and verbal. And we asked them to rate the relevance of the topic in order for us to understand the influence of AAC on their everyday activities and participation in the school setting. So they rated this on a 7-point scale, with low relevance being 1 and high or completely relevant being 7. And then for each item, we also asked them to give us any additional information that might help justify why they had rated each topic in that way. At the end of the survey, we also gave them an opportunity to add other topics that maybe we hadn't already identified in the survey. Results, we ranked all the 22 topics and came up with the most highly rated topics. Most of the topics were quite highly rated. This is the list of the top ones. Generally, they were rated quite high, but when we also had an opportunity, we looked at all the different subgroups to come up with our top domains, our dimensions. And we wanted to make sure that we included the top 2 choices from each of the subgroups. And we bring this up, one of the interesting examples is that the domain of quality of educator and clinician collaboration was not ranked highly by most of our expert groups. However, the young people that use AAC, it was ranked among the highest of those in that subgroup. So we did include that one. So you see here the top 11 dimensions that were identified by all of our experts. Anne-Marie talked about the international communication and functioning. We just wanted to show how using this way to categorize all of the dimensions that were identified can be classified into the International Classification and Functioning Style View. So functioning and disability, including activity and participation level, you can see that some of the dimensions that are listed there would fall within that functioning and disability category. So social validity, communication function, communication effectiveness, communication spontaneity, as well as receptive and expressive language. Whereas some of the other dimensions that were identified would be included under the contextual factors of the ICF. So those including communication opportunities, school environment support, quality of the peer interaction, parent-educator collaboration, as well as the parent and AAC team collaboration. So we just wanted to show how these dimensions that were identified fall nicely into the ICF framework. And now I'll pass it over to Steve to talk about phase 3, the phase validity.
Great, thanks Tracy. My name is Steve Ryan. I'm a researcher in the Blue Review Research Institute at Holland Blue Review. I'll be talking about the involvement of educators in a 2-stage study to estimate the face validity of our new questionnaire. So in a nutshell, we wanted to make sure that the questionnaire that we were developing made sense and was relevant to educators. We needed a way to quantify the domains ranked as important by content experts in a previous phase so we could learn more about the functional performance and environmental factors that may affect functioning of students who need AAC. We generated statements or items that we thought would tap into the different domains. This process of item generation was informed by the measures and content found in the articles identified during our systematic review. We selected wording that we thought would allow us to understand functional performance rather than functional capability or capacity. In other words, we're interested in what students typically do rather than what they could do at school. So this slide provides an example of one of the 11 domains. Tracy mentioned this earlier. That was highly ranked by our content experts. So in this particular case, we defined communication effectiveness as the degree to which a student is successful in all forms of written and verbal communication. So in this domain, we created a pool of items that included statements such as those listed. My student responds well to my questions. My student clarifies messages when needed, for example, along with another dozen or so items that were included. So we created similar item pools for each of the other 10 domains. So our plan was to create a questionnaire whereby educators could read the items and rate their degree of agreement with statements. And this way we could use the ratings of the like items to quantify each of the dimensions. So in this example, educators would read the statement, my student responds well to my questions, and rate the level of agreement with this statement while thinking about a specific student who used AAC. So as a team, we generated an initial pool of 235 items. We selected by consensus 10 to 12 items for each of the domains, and that yielded an initial questionnaire of 113 items. We recruited 8 educators from different school boards within the Greater Toronto area to help us assess the clarity and relevance of these items. Participants included 5 teachers and 3 educational assistants or special educators who had varied experience supporting or teaching students who used AAC systems. The ages of students they experienced supporting included those with the age range targeted for our new outcome measures, so between the ages of 3 and 18. The 8 educator participants took part in 2 stages. In stage 1, we asked educators to think about one of their own students who used AAC. Participants independently completed our online questionnaire by reading and rating each of the 113 items. For items that were unclear or not relevant, we asked them to indicate this instead of providing a rating. In the second stage, stage 2, they attended 1 or 2 consensus sessions involving 4 educators. We provided participants in each group a list of items identified by at least one person in the group as being unclear or not relevant. Together, the group considered each item and decided by consensus to recommend that our team keep, reword, or discard the original item. This is a screenshot of the online survey that we used in stage 1. We provided instructions to complete the questionnaire, and the 113 items were presented in random order. As noted earlier, participants assigned ratings from strongly agree to strongly disagree, or they noted that the item was not clear or not relevant for the student that they were considering. So to recap then, we started with 113 items following our initial item generation and selection process. At the end of stage 1, educators collectively identified about half of the items as being either unclear or not relevant. And at the end of stage 2, following the group reviews, educators recommended that 36 words or statements be either reworded or deleted from the questionnaire. We considered their advice, revised our instructions for completing the questionnaire, and either reworded or eliminated 38 items. This actually shortened the questionnaire to 104 items. This slide shows the first page of the revised questionnaire with a tentative name that we've assigned Functional Impact of AAC Educator version, or FIAC-E for short. We're still debating on what the name of the questionnaire should be. It doesn't actually roll off your tongue, so we're thinking about possibly another acronym for it. But brief instructions for completing the questionnaire are included on the questionnaire and followed by items in the rating scale. So based on our experience with the administration of similar measures, we expect that this version will take about 20 minutes to complete. While our research provides support for the content and face validity of the questionnaire, we do need to do more measurement development. The plan for our next study is to recruit a large number of educators with AAC experience to complete the current version of the questionnaire. Their responses will allow us to estimate the reliability and obtain further support for the validity of the measure. Will also give us clues about which items are best suited to help us study the real-world functioning of students who need AAC. This important work will provide strong evidence for using the questionnaire to study the multidimensional effect of AAC interventions in school activity settings for research, clinical, and educational applications. So the study we presented today represents only a small part of the measurement development work we're doing to understand better the real-world impact of AAC for children and youth with complex communication needs. The vision of our research team is to develop an inventory of measures to study the effects of AAC interventions on functional performance in different environments and from different perspectives of different communication partners, including educators, parents, and peers, as well as young people who use AAC themselves. Many outcome studies are underway and more are being planned. So partnerships with knowledge users, including AAC clinic team members, families, and decision makers are essential to our research program, as these help to ground and focus our research activities. In addition to co-developing and answering important research questions, we're beginning a process of supporting AAC teams to use sound measures to understand outcomes and ultimately to use these to improve communication interventions, services, and systems for young people who use AAC. So I wanted to thank the folks that took part in the study, including educators, clinicians, and youth. We also wanted to thank a number of school boards and organizations that supported the study through our recruitment efforts. We gratefully acknowledge the funding support for this project from the Center for Leadership in Participation and Inclusion from Holland Bloorview. And we're actually looking for researcher and knowledge user engagement from across the country, and would welcome interest in being involved as we move forward with our research program in general and within schools in particular. Please email me if you have questions or are interested in learning more or would like to get involved in our research program. Thanks to everybody who attended today's webinar. We'll share details for how to access the recorded version of the webinar soon.